Anadia, the over-intrusive parent of some player. I mean, if it's a tennis parent and you're the coach, yeah, can you deal with the guy that's kind of one-on-one? Some weird Slovakian starts waving a sword in your face and suggesting, as our good friend Joe Casal mentioned, that when he was a sports agent, a guy actually like waved a sword in his face and said, "If you don't get my daughter a shoe deal, I'm going to chop your head off." Now, that's a little invasive, is it not? If you're the parent that's going to be influential, we all know about the proverbial mentioning the Little League. Again, the Little League parent. What was worse than that, Lubie?
Worse. Oh, no. The fact that they actually get into fistfights now is something I never imagined when I was a little kid.
Come out and tackle umpires. They do all kinds of crazy stuff. It was annoying. That was the best part about the fact that neither my mother or father really knew anything about sports. I still will never forget, literally, Lubie, getting shelled by the Massapequa All-Star team. Getting shelled. I can't get anybody out. So I'm rearing back and I'm firing. And literally, Lubie, I nearly snapped my neck watching these balls fly out of the park. So I'm down like 11-0 after 2 innings, something along those lines. And I actually said to the coach, "Hey, listen, I can't get anybody out. You got to put somebody else in." He said, "You're all we got." Finally, after losing like 27-3 or something in that category, I come up, and I'm riding home, and my father says to me, "You look great out there tonight." And I thought that's a lot better than what others, some of these other parents are probably feeding their kids at this point.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Very pleasant. Good morning, everybody. Great to be with you here, the Defo Show. We got Mike Lubie Lubitz, a very bright and cheery looking Mike Lubie Lubitz, which is amazing because Lubie is one of those fans that doesn't mind. I mean, if it's going to end, he'd just as soon see it end in catastrophe and disaster and embarrassment. And so much for my handicapping theory. I got to put another line through one of my favorite handicapping angles, Lubie, and that is South Beach Syndrome. We had the early, and I don't know that it was even a bold prediction. It seemed kind of logical, didn't it? That Cleveland was going to go up 3-0 on the Miami Heat, come down to Miami, win game number 3. Didn't think it would be the blowout that it was. But after that, you thought if any time a team was going to go out and celebrate the possibility of partying all night on South Beach, having a game they can easily afford to lose, but probably will win anyway, before going back to stinking Cleveland. My God, what would... Name me one thing that you would do in Cleveland. Go to a Guardians game? What else can you do?
Exactly. Go to the Blue Jays. That's not
Is
even
it the original home of Don King? I don't know. What are some of the highlights of a visit to Cleveland, Ohio? I'm not sure. I don't mean to diminish, the greatness of the city if you happen to be from there. But, I mean, it just seems like a very nondescript place for an NBA player. Not exactly a bastion of a wild nightlife and entertainment, and the possibility of connecting with various chicks and drinking a lot of booze and having a huge tab at some club. But I didn't expect this, South Beach Syndrome. So I was willing to go ahead and figure the Heat were going to show some dignity, demonstrate that Heat culture, Lubie, and go out and at least make it somewhat representative. Be within 10 late in the ball game. Maybe a late 3 by some scrub that got in because Spoelstra thought it'd be nice for this guy to get 2 seconds of playoff experience. He chucks one up from the Coke machine and boom, it goes through. And bingo, what do you have? You have a 7-point game and you cover. But hardly the case. If somebody had offered you 54.5 with the Cavaliers last night, would you have? Last night, would you have taken it?
Not the wrong person. I thought the Panthers were going to win 1, maybe 2 in this series. I got this whole thing. I knew the Cavs were real, but I thought the Heat would push them, and the Heat did not. The Heat actually got de-escalating worse as the series went on.
That was remarkably lame. It was a game that you find in the obituary column the next day. Never mind the sports section. So, and it may well be that's an omen possibly for things to come. Because did you see the look on Pat Riley? The people were more festive looking at the Pope's funeral, which I do have to congratulate the Italians on this. They have it all over the British, Louis, in this respect. How long did it take them to bury the freaking Queen?
Oh, weeks.
They were dragging that carcass around the country for months before they finally put the poor woman in her grave. The Pope, all right, big deal. I don't know. Who's a bigger deal, the Pope or the Queen? You would have to go Pope, no?
Worldwide.
more universal than the Queen.
Yeah, worldwide Pope. Yeah. I mean,
Worldwide, yeah.
but worldwide.
Whole religious thing, connection to God. You're afraid that if you don't have the right sentiment about the Pope, who knows, you're going to burn in hell. I don't know, Lubie. There are a lot of consequences to not being favorable to the Pope in some people's minds. I'm just looking and going, they put this guy in the ground in 3 days. That's reasonable, isn't it? Considering the number of people that wanted to blow by the casket there and pay their last respects. But all over the English in that regard. And yet, I do believe that the Pope's funeral was more festive than he came last night. It was a curiosity factor, Lubie, in that I was looking at, me, I always like to see what could you get into a game for if you were actually buying tickets. I don't know that I would ever, why would I ever consider that? Because I don't think I've paid for tickets to 5 things in my lifetime. What do you think, Lubie? I mean, is it worth looking at to see measure the level of interest and the possibilities about certain games? Now, we know everything in San Francisco is exponentially more expensive, right? So Golden State tickets last night, the cheapest ones were $235 for their thrilling victory over the Houston Rockets. And would you say if you paid the $230, I mean, if you have the money, did you get your money's worth? Yeah. Tickets for the Heat game last night were $32. This is in Miami. This is no slouch of a city when it comes to expense. And people that are on expense accounts that they can easily afford. Well, I had to take a couple of clients to the game. What? You got whacked for $8,000? Are you kidding me? But nobody was really all that interested in going to this ball game. Tickets were available for like $30 for a playoff game. I think that's cheaper than they would be in a regular season. So most were resigned to the idea that this was going to result in, if you were going to put 2 words to this game, such ugliness. Which the origins of, Lubie. That phrase, such ugliness, came from my days as a waiter at the Dharma Greb restaurant in Los Angeles, where the maitre d' was a Lebanese guy named Dory, who eventually opened a restaurant here in South Florida in West Palm Beach. Same type of place, was very successful. And then that was the friend of mine that actually turned up as a subject on Unsolved Mysteries. That's when maybe you're hanging with the wrong crowd. When your buddies are showing up there, people that you knew, people that were in a close circle of at least acquaintances, and they're the subject. Here comes Stack out of that cloud of smoke, and he says, "It happened in West Palm Beach, Florida." But he would seat. We would be busy as hell. I mean, the place was so popular. They got a favorable review from this guy Elmer Dills, who was the food critic at the LA Times, extremely influential. If he said a place was great, whoosh, people went there. And so we're packed in on a Saturday night, and Dory, the maitre d', would lead a party of 4 to one of your tables that didn't look quite as festive and quite as elaborate and distinct as some of the movie stars that were coming in there. And he would mumble under his breath, "Dentists from Encino. Such ugliness."
Yeah.
And that's what we had. We had such ugliness last night. I mean, it was just, I don't know. It's interesting to discuss from the angle of, can I even say this, Lubie? This is going to be like my Fonzie moment, right? Where you're thinking, I can't say it. Pat Riley. Is Pat Riley the culprit here? Is it that the game? I can't even believe this for a second. But they certainly appear to be in a spot, and they may be in the right spot for you, Lubie. This should make for an outstanding offseason of speculation for you. The Milwaukee Bucks are getting trashed. Damian Lillard now out, maybe even for next year. If you're the Milwaukee Bucks, is it time to punt? Maybe so. Giannis Antetokounmpo, he can't be happy about this. They traded half of their team to get Damian Lillard. They traded. I mean, it was a huge cachet of collateral there, and fuel for the future for the Portland Trailblazers. Even though we thought the Blazers blew it by not taking Tyler Hero, maybe we were wrong. Do we owe Joe Cronin an apology? It's possible.
I mean, Heroes.
He had a great season, but
he turned into an all-star in there. They got nothing back. Like, they don't have anyone still available from that trade. Like, literally, they don't play anyone from that trade. Let alone they haven't even sniffed a play. I mean, I guess they were sort of close to a playing team.
They showed signs of life during.
Improved, but you can't tell me
the midway point till towards the end of the season. They
would have been better served with what the Heat would have offered than what they got. Even if Hero flamed out in the first round series, like, the dude was an all-star this year. Was one of only like 5 guys that went for 24, 5 and 5. Like, they screwed up, but But it's not like the Heat are in so much better stakes right now. And I don't know what to do with Riley. Look, we'll talk
Still
with
looks great, by the way, doesn't he?
Yeah, he looks. I mean, he's 80 years old, and the fact that he's still at the games and he's still hemming and hawing with every play, I give him credit. I wonder how much he's involved in the day to day. We'll talk with Ethan Skolnick tomorrow, who is our eye in the sky when it comes to the Miami Heat. He says, "Look, yes, Riley's involved, but it's not like it once was." So to me, he's 80 years old. Like this idea that he's going to be a part of the next rebuild and he's going to go like he's 80.
Hubie Brown was like 94 and he was still announcing games.
I mean, announcing games.
I think you have some kind of age discrimination issue, Lubie, if you're going to discount a guy just because. No, I don't know. I guess it's a legitimate question. We've talked to Scoop about this before, and he would tell you that Riley is not the end all when it comes to the decision making now. Yes. I would think you would always want this guy out there representing your franchise, even if he wasn't saying anything, even if he was catatonic, even if he was everybody knew his brain. Hey, we had a president like that, didn't we? Joe Biden.
Yeah, there you go.
We're not going to put Pat Riley in the Joe Biden category in terms of what limits he's capable of in innovative thinking as a basketball guy. But no, it's another one of those times where you have a team that's in your hometown that appears to be somewhat snookered. No, somewhat snookered, I think would be an apt description. And it doesn't appear like they're on the threshold of any kind of a major breakthrough, but we shall see. We've been surprised before. That being said, the two number one seeds both sweep through the first round of the NBA. Chalk City, NBA, a Milk of Magnesia league. I'm surprised Milk of Magnesia is not a sponsor.
Yeah.
Although that's not the type of fan that they're trying to attract, the kind of guy that, as I was discussing with Andy yesterday on the phone, when Dick Barnett checked out at 88, everybody that played basketball around the time that he was popular in the NBA, especially, and this is not meant to make any racial assertions whatsoever, but under the theory that white men can't jump. We all did the Dick Barnett thing where we folded our legs underneath our jump shot. So it looked like we had actually elevated off the ground. In fact, Andy said that when he went to the park, his first 30 shots were Barnett, and he would call out Barnett. Just like Barnett. If you took a bank shot, you would call out Sam Jones.
That's funny.
We weren't dunking. It was not like we were calling out Dr. J at any time. A Cleveland shellac, I mean, what kind of indicator is that? Is it more of an indication that the Heat are in a major jackpot, that they're at a boiling point in terms of their present and their future? Or is it more of an indicator, Lubie, that Cleveland is a damn good team and has not really been shown the respect because people still favor Boston over the Cleveland Cavaliers now? I don't know. We'd have to get closer to that series actually taking place to really get concerned about individual matchups there. And basketball still very much a game of matchups and who can chuck the three with any kind of consistency. Which, we were seeing in that Golden State series where Steph Curry goes through spurts where it's just Circus City, is it not? Where you think you're watching that and one, like you're watching The Professor in the and one league, where everybody's doing some kind of trick shot, like you're watching baseball with the Savannah Bananas, so where no guy can just catch a ball. He has to bounce it off his head first, like he was Jose Canseco. So, those were the two games last night. One was very compelling. The other one was, unfortunately, just a complete waste of time. That was in the NBA. And tonight you have the resumption of 4 of the series. Wow. A very busy night of NBA activity coming up. Milwaukee, Indy, you're figuring Indy closes it out. They're up 3-1. Detroit and the Knicks. Detroit just got robbed in that last ball game. So the Knicks enjoying a 3-1 advantage and looking to close it out at the Garden. Boston also looking to take care of business against Orlando in 5. And the Clippers in Denver. What do you make of that series, Lubie? Clippers in Denver. You had that one blowout by the LA Clippers. The Clippers also prevailing in a nail-biter in game 1 of the series on the road against Denver and indicated that maybe the wise guys were right. That all the people that were starting to espouse the virtues and profess the virtues of the LA Clippers as a potential upsetter of the Oklahoma City Thunder and their vast superiority they demonstrated during the regular season, that the Clippers were the team that could do it. Clippers. People were thinking Lakers, but that's not so much of a thought anymore, is it? Are the Lakers toast? Many questions to be answered in the West. The Lakers don't get back on the court till tomorrow night, but 4 series resuming tonight, and 3 of them are at 3-1. Clippers in Denver, the most competitive, obviously, at 2-2. And back in Denver for game number 5. So some riveting action there. Now, let's get to the good stuff here. That happened in South Florida, right in our backyard. We had 2 games going on simultaneously. I was watching the Panther game against the Tampa Bay Lightning, and we've been characterizing that series as a bloodbath, and it's been exactly that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
How weird is it that the Ekblad retaliation on Hager exactly, I mean, what was an exact facsimile of a very reasonable facsimile, as they used to say, about the autographed baseballs I saw there at Shea, where you knew that nobody had ever touched this ball with a pen. It was just coming out of like a Xerox machine or something, and it was deemed to be a reasonable facsimile of an autographed ball. I guess they had actually used some real autographs and just copied it, but nonetheless, yeah, I mean, the facsimile to the hit by Ekblad on Hager versus what Hager did to Barkov, which Hager was later suspended. Now, how that play didn't draw even a minor penalty, Lubie.
It was a bit, yeah. I don't think
How
they
is
were
that possible? Two officials literally there. This was worse than the thing with the Knicks game.
I mean, it was a big one.
Yeah, but I mean, explain to me how that was not a penalty.
Oh, no, it was. Look, I don't think they were anywhere near the same thing. I mean, Barkov wasn't near the puck, turns around, and Hagel sizes him up, leaves the ice, and launches at his neck and head area. Ekblad's one was a penalty. It was rough. He definitely takes his fist.
If that doesn't qualify as some form of roughing,
he's not. I don't think he went with the ferocity that Hagel did. So I don't know about this suspension stuff, but I know he took his fist. They said, I feel like he went for the chest. They said he went for the neck head. I'm like, it looks like he went for the chest. It looks like he hit the chest, and then Hagel flung his head back. But it wasn't
like a forearm shiver from Hulk Hogan. What are you talking about?
It was a forearm.
It's a helpless tag team, partner on the other side.
And Hagel did not have the puck. So it definitely was a penalty. I don't know how both.
Two guys are looking right at it with great angles. Both guys could have seen this as clear as the day is long, my friend.
It was a clear penalty. I'm not fighting it. If they look at it and they suspend it, I can't. I don't think it's suspension worthy, but I can't say I wouldn't lose it over it because it definitely was a physical play away from the puck, which they're trying to legislate out of the game. And there was no reason for it. Ekblad, I know he was trying to get him back and this and that for his teammate, but you didn't have to do it there. Like, this is the playoffs and we can't afford. He's been playing really well. The Panthers can't afford to lose him. Like, it was a stupid play. It was an overly aggressive play. It was an unnecessary play. It definitely was a penalty.
And he got away with it.
And he got nothing.
Yeah.
Like, nothing.
Nothing. They take Hagel off the ice. I mean, this guy was crippled. He looked like
he got hit. He never came back.
A one-round knockout from Mike Tyson.
And it was similar to Barkov in the sense that he never came back.
Yeah, sayonara. That's the NHL. This is the first round of the playoffs, and they're getting this level of intensity. Now, the two teams hate each other, and that's part of the beauty of the series. Announcers last night were alluding to the idea, this can't be true, Lubie, that this is the biggest rivalry in the NHL right now, Tampa Bay and the Florida Panthers.
They actually said that in the game. They're like, this is the... I mean, you can see the way they hate each other. They're
Toronto and Montreal wouldn't be a bigger rivalry.
I don't know. I don't.
Detroit, Chicago.
Both aren't good. Like, these are two
Boston,
teams.
New York.
They're the last 5 representatives of the Eastern Conference and the Stanley Cup Finals. They're literally 3 hours away from each other. They're both really talented, really well coached. And they've played now 4 times out of 5 years in playoffs. Like, it's what you need for a rivalry that I don't think you have anywhere else in hockey, I guess. Like, they said it. I didn't. I know it's, like you said, it's the only professional rivalry we have in the state.
Here in the state of Florida, yes, of course. It's been spectacular because there's bad blood. But around the country, around the 2 nations that are involved here and around the world, I don't know that you would characterize it as that. But that takes nothing away from the intensity level that we've seen and witnessed so far in the series.
No, it's crazy.
And while you were watching a Heat game that literally was like presiding over a wake.
Yeah, they called it a funeral. Spiro Ditas literally said it on the call.
It probably was for a lot of people. The contrast on at the same time, unfortunately, so it was hard to follow both. But But wildly entertaining game, and the Panthers end up going up 3-1. And the oddity of oddities, I would imagine unprecedented in NHL history, which goes way back, Lubie, that you had one team score 2 goals in the matter of 11 seconds, in an 11-second span, as Tampa Bay did, to take the lead. Looked like they're going to hold on. After the 5-minute major was staved off by the Florida Panthers, they gathered some momentum, and you thought, well, there's a chance here. They got the goal that was disallowed.
Yes,
on a power play by Ekblad.
That's such a.
It's a weird rule, but I don't mind it.
I hate it with a passion. Again, it's like, okay, we missed a holding. Wait, let's replay. It happened 7 minutes ago. Let's go replay the holding. It was on a touchdown drive, so we have to make sure it was a clean touch. Like, I get in the NBA, they review a three-pointer like sometimes 2-3 minutes later, and they'll add or subtract a point. But points happen in that game. Like, goals, especially in playoffs, especially in this series, have been few and far between. It's one of the stupidest rules I've ever seen. He alludes to it. Sean McDonough alludes to it as they're coming in. Okay, call it there. Once you don't call it, it's done. They were in that side for like 2 minutes. The puck came in and out and around and whirly-dilly, did all these things. And then eventually they get a goal. Then they go and review. Like, how do you review the beginning of – it's like reviewing a play from the 5-yard line on a 95-yard drive. Like,
let's go back 2 minutes, 5 plays ago. Yeah,
stupidest rule. I already hate the offsides. I've already talked about that in soccer. I think soccer would be so much more fun if you actually let fast breaks happen. I hate the offsides, but fine. If you nail it, okay. You miss it, and they go around, come back, almost go out of the zone, but then save the puck, go and do all these things for a minute to 2 minutes, and then
here's one for you. I just had this thought. Didn't mean to interrupt, but I wanted to interject this. Let's suppose Tampa Bay had scored. They get the puck and they go down and score. Did they then backtrack to the offsides and say that the play should have been suspended there? That's another way of looking at it. But I understand your point, Lubie. I think there are good arguments both ways on that one. I'm sitting the fence a little bit, but you almost have me convinced that you're right.
No, you don't have to like it. You can like it and say, look, this is hockey, and we can go back to. So what if they're in the zone for 6 minutes? What if they just miraculously keep, which doesn't happen. I get it. If you're in the zone for a minute and a half, that's like a long time. But
yeah, it became inconsequential because of the progress of the play.
No, I just don't. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't understand. Like, how far do you go back? Like, it's just a weird.
It wasn't like they scored right away because these two guys were offside.
I remember last year there was one, and it was weird to me. But like, the offsides happened. They scored right away. It was like, okay, that's annoying and that's weird. Fine. But the fact that the puck was in the zone, they got like 4 shots. They got it was like
pucks in the crowd. They throw it back.
Like,
it was strange. I mean, you saw the concern that Cooper was going nuts, man. He's not usually that animated. He was absolutely beside himself throughout most of the game, with excitement, infused with an overwhelming excitement when they got the 2 goals. And then to have that happen reciprocated by the other team, I have to say that that's unprecedented. 2 goals by 2 different teams in the same game in 11-second spans. That had to be an NHL first. Imagine you're seeing something that has never transpired before in the history of the game. And all in the context of just a wildly exciting game, up and down the ice. Great stuff going on. Massive hits being put on players. And think about this. Could you get any more pivotal than what happened there in the last couple of minutes in that game? You're either going to be 2-2 going back to Tampa, with Tampa now having seized back the momentum in the series after losing the first 2 on their home ice. Home ice has held up. I don't know. Would you consider this reasonably well, Lubie? I believe home teams were something like 22-10 in the postseason so far. It's 10 losses, a third of the time. I guess that's fairly significant. So home ice, certainly not what it is in terms of meaningfulness as it is in the NBA. But that being said, I mean, you're either 2-2 going back to Tampa, feeling pretty good about yourself, or you're 3-1 and on the threshold, the precipice of elimination with a team that just came back from the grave and beat you in a game that it looked like you already had a lock on. And then how do you go 5 minutes and an entire major with a chance to literally ice the game, seal it away, and come away with nothing? therein lies the biggest problem that the Tampa Bay Lightning had in that game last night.
Oh no, their power. I mean, look, both power plays have been an abomination. Like neither team scored on a power play since the first game.
It's crazy, right?
Bad. I mean, the penalty kills are good. Call it whatever you want, but it's both teams. I mean, the Panthers can't do anything on their power plays, and the Lightning had 5 minutes, and I don't know if they got a shot on goal in the major.
You wouldn't even known it was happening. You're thinking, let me see. I only see like 4 guys out there. What the hell's going on? Did they forget to send somebody over the boards? So that was a great game. I mean, just a great way to continue what has been an awesome first round of NHL playoffs so far. And you had also last night Dallas taking at least temporary control of their series as they knocked off Colorado, scored a goal 9 seconds into the game. Always great, isn't it?
Oh, my God.
You haven't even got to your seat yet with a popcorn and a hot dog that just cost you $68 at the concession stands, and either up or down 1-0. It was kind of like being at the Michael Spinks Tyson fight, where a friend of mine literally did get up and go to the bathroom right before, as the intros are going.
Oh my God!
In the blue corner, he is undefeated, and so he says, "I got to take a leak. I'm going to go to the bathroom here. I should be back before." He was figuring it was going to be a lengthy national anthem. Comes back, and they're carrying Spinks out of the ring in a stretcher already. Said, hey, you missed a good fight, right? Open your eyes, ref. You missed a good game. All right, let us introduce to you. Should we take a break or come back and just let's bring him on? He's here. We don't need a break. We'll sell stuff later. We welcome to the show, and I was inspired by some of his social media posts on the draft, which we recapped in great detail yesterday because we knew nothing about it. And I thought, wow, Len Robbins, our good friend, is posting things that are so insightful. You wouldn't even know that Shedeur Sanders was involved in this draft at all. It was great. We welcome to the show the great, longtime writer. I always enjoyed him in the Post. He's been in a host of other places, and now a professor. We welcome the professor, Len Robbins, to the program. Len, how are you, my friend?
Boy, you're going to wish you opted for that break. How are you guys? It's great to be with you.
Good to see you again as well. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know you worked with Madison Square Garden Network for a while, and naturally were involved with the New York Knicks. Growing up in New York, I'm thinking you're probably as depressed about the passing of Dick Barnett as I was. Lubie never saw the guy play, never did the leg thing, so that it looked like he got off the ground on his jumper. But did you think they stole one there against Detroit, Len Robbins, with the non-call on Hardaway Jr.?
Once again, I'm reminded why I love coming on this show more than all others. It's the only place where you get asked a question about a guy and his leg thing.
100%.
I mean, so, look, I couldn't get off the ground. You couldn't slide a piece of paper underneath my vertical leap. And did you not go to the park? I was talking with a friend of mine about this last night. And your first 20 shots, you would call out, you'd hit a banker, call out Sam Jones, and then you did the thing with your legs, and you would call out Barnett. Love that guy.
You know, I think he just kind of summed up part of his career really well. Dick Barnett was a heck of a basketball player. He really was. He was a terrific player. But, you know, when you've got a guy by the name of, you know, Clyde Frazier on your team, and then you bring in an Earl the Pearl Monroe, right? It's hard to get the notoriety, the publicity, the accolades that you deserve, you know? And I think on strictly like, I don't know, maybe this is this stage in my life thing. When one of your quote unquote childhood heroes passes away, it really like brings mortality into like a whole new light. You know, and again, not that any of us really have a choice in this, right? You pass away when you pass away, unless you're a Mexican drug cartel leader, and then that's really organized for you. You know, he's in the middle. It's in the middle of what I think has been one of the best starts to an NBA playoffs in a long time. And so really outside of New York and, you know, places like where you guys are in Florida, where I think now there's going to be a tariff levied on all New Yorkers who move down to Florida. You know, it kind of got lost in the shuffle, but great player, great guy, you know. 88 years old. I hope somewhere up in wherever he is, he's showing, some of these young guys, how to really make a jumper.
He carried my man Butch Comeyes for years. It was great. Yeah, you mentioned, and I'm glad you're following this closely because we do want to touch on some of your thoughts on the draft here. But while we have you on the NBA, number one seeds, both with sweeps. There's actually a stench. We had an early morning warning from the Robert F. Kennedy Jr. actually came on TV and said, "Do not go outside if you're in Miami right now because there's some kind of ugly stench coming over the city from the Miami, what was the Miami Arena,
Whatever that was,
yeah, the Kaseya Center as it's known now. Well, all the way up to Broward County where the Panthers prevailed last night on the ice, but that was wild. Now you were you with MSG? You obviously covered the Knicks during a period of time when Pat Riley was there. I don't know if you. I would imagine, Len Robbins, you hold Pat Riley in the same iconic category that Lubie and I do, and yet the assertions are now. I mean, it's Chuck Noll City that the game might have passed him by. What did you make of that? I mean, that was beyond embarrassing. I don't know that I've seen two games quite like that by any franchise at any time. That was just enough points to have beaten the 1991 New York Knicks in a playoff game, but not enough to handle the Cleveland Cavaliers with a $138.
Once again, you set me up for failure both on a professional and a personal note. And I can't say I appreciate that, but my wife and I were watching Last of Us. And I just grabbed my phone at 1 second and said to myself, let me just check in on that Miami game. And I saw the score was something like, it kind of looked like a Super Bowl score, right? There was so many like letters and numbers next to Cleveland. And I literally said, first time I've done that in bed in quite some time. And my wife said, "Are you okay?" I was shocked by it because we can sit here and talk all we want about the moves that have been made or haven't been made. Certainly the trade of Jimmy Butler is haunting them in more ways than one. Right? They have lost forget a killer instinct. They've lost the come to play instinct.
Yeah,
and that's the thing that Riley either has to acknowledge that he can address or address it. They clearly didn't have the talent to match up against the Cleveland, but that's not what concerns me. What concerns me is how, I always say to myself that I wonder if every actor dreams of the scene where they get, shot and they get to die, right? Or they get hit by a car, they have to die, right? Or like if that's just like part of it. I never expected that out of the Miami Heat team. Never. And to me, you use the word stench. That's the smell that lingers for me out of Miami. Or maybe that's the governor's office. I don't know. I didn't fact check this morning, so.
Yeah, it was ugliness personified. All right, everybody, we know the NBA is a chalk league, and almost everybody was anticipating a Cleveland-Boston Eastern Conference final, an Oklahoma City and somebody Western Conference final, and Oklahoma City and Boston meeting in the final. I don't know that Cleveland was accorded the kind of respect that their regular season should have generated. Am I wrong about that, or is it a fait accompli that somehow the Celtics and Oklahoma City are going to meet?
Well, it might be a fait accompli simply because those two teams are so good. I still maintain that Boston's the best team in the NBA. And for a New York guy to say Boston's the best at anything tells me it's time for my first 1800
exactly
tequila break of the morning. And the thing that I think people miss the boat on, by the way, with the Celtics is they're not just set up for a repeat. They're set up for dynasty. And Oklahoma City, and I really am not trying to diss Oklahoma City. Can I come back to that thought later?
Yeah, sure.
But here's the thing, right? Can you imagine if this Oklahoma City team was in Golden State or Chicago or Detroit or Miami or New York? people would name like all 5 starters, and I look at that team and I'm like, wait, who's that guy? Well, who's the coach?
Yeah.
The last time I was in Oklahoma City with the Nets, and you're talking about a guy who grows up in a city where there's a traffic light like literally every 30 feet, right? They did away with jaywalking, but they added more traffic lights, right? Like, if my recollection of Oklahoma City is there were like 4 traffic lights right in the heart of downtown, and then everything is a stop sign. And I'm like, oh, this is where Demolition Derby got its start.
You don't hear that stated as a favored destination of many NBA players, where they go, you know what, I got to get out of Boston. I want to play for Oklahoma City. Although your man Hartenstein from the Knicks chose Oklahoma City, and he's been more than an integral part of a team that doesn't seem. Gilgeous Alexander obviously is a standout. People know Holmgren because he's skinny and tall, but like you said, a nondescript group, and yet interchangeable somewhat. That Hartenstein move, I think, was one of the key components of their offseason that has them propelled into the spot.
Okay, but look, you guys are regular guys. I mean that in the most complimentary of ways, right? When people think of, the best moves that Hartenstein has made, right? Yeah. It's getting a contract he never thought he would get, right? Getting engaged to a supermodel, right? And at one point, people thought that he was the one Jewish player on the Knicks. That's it.
I was going to say he's not.
Brunson is the Jewish.
Definitely not Jewish.
He ended up in a garden spot there, but that's part of that team's success. Len Robbins, our special guest, Lubie. I know you're dying to get in on this NBA conversation. So,
well, and I get it. Like, the Celtics won the title, and they have been there a lot. Not before, been there a lot the last handful of years. And they finally broke through, and they are well coached, and they're just sort of systematic at this point. But what to me, and that's this series versus the Heat, was a tell sign 2 ways. First, that the Heat were just lifeless. I mean, you could be the best team ever. To lose that way was just, you showed no heart. But we've also, including the Celtics, see teams sort of play with their food, and the Cavs never let up at a point in that series. Like, and especially going down to Miami and playing the way they played offense and defense, to me, it showed a sign of growth. Is what you see in the NBA, right? Like, the NBA doesn't reward the young. You have to grow. You have to get better. 2-3 years, and you finally hit your moment. Cavs 2 years ago don't play the Heat like they did this year. Like, the Cavs, it felt like they're hungry, they're angry, and they've sort of learned a lesson or two that you learn from playing in the playoffs. Like, you don't take anything away from just their system. I mean, they were up by 50, and you would have known that they were playing up by 50 the same way they were playing up by 5, which is something that the great teams do, and the teams that find a way to lose don't.
Couple of things there, but I'm going to out you guys first, because this is one of the fun things about coming on. I always wondered to myself, because if people said to me, take a look at just these 2 pictures, right? You guys next to each other, right? Did they look like they would be a great sports talk tandem? And I'd be like, no, like, that's like a grandfather and a father, and they're probably prepping for like a bris or something, right? But then I realized there's I'm like, how do they communicate with each other? How do I know they want to jump in? And then I just realized that there's this private chat, which I guess I'm throwing out the word private, where Lubie just writes something.
Yes.
And I guess that's
my cue.
Clue.
I don't mind if he jumps in anytime, but
the honorable Judge Defo here, that it's time for Lubie to say something. So, and maybe that could be my pitch to my wife if we ever get the house to ourselves. I could just text her something with a question mark, and who knows where it would go. But going back to what you said, it's really interesting. A couple of things here, right? I think people have forgotten what a really good coach Kenny Atkinson is. And he might be as well liked a coach by his players as any coach in the NBA. He did nothing short of a remarkable job with the Nets. When he took over that team, they had 2 guys from the CYO League. They had 3 guys who they had claimed off waivers like the day before or whatever. I mean, that team was young, awful, and he had them playing on a nightly basis, which is pretty hard to do in any league. You know, players, you can't BS players. They look at their roster, they look at the other roster, and they're like, here we go again, right? He had them playing. And so I think, yes, even now, like this conversation, I get it. You guys are in South Florida. It should be the conversation. What happened to the Heat, right? Well, the Cavs hear all this. They've heard how they're a great regular season team, all that stuff, and they're like, hell no. Now I don't think they can beat the Celtics in a 7-game series, but heck, I want to watch it. That's for sure. I want a ticket to it. And then, do I think at the end of the day the Celtics experience and talent and all that other stuff is gonna prevail? I do. But the other day, and I hope it doesn't come to something like this, I saw Jaylen Brown fall and like dislocate his finger or something, right? That's how tenuous, success can be in an NBA series.
All right. I want to touch on some of the points you made about the draft. Of course, the story was always, Mel Kiper actually, I think, had to be taken into intensive care after the 3rd round was completed. And they found that there was moose that was clogging his system. It was incredible. And that was causing the problem, not the Shedeur Sanders story. But my favorite story out of the draft was right there in your hometown, the Big Apple, New York City, where Tommy DeVito demanded a trade after Jackson Dart was taken in the first round. Did that make headlines in New York? That was quite a piece of audacity on the part of Mr. Ragu over there. I mean, what would he answer that? If you could have bet that Tommy DeVito would be demanding a trade after the first round of the draft, I would think you would have made a substantial score, no?
Yeah. Who takes that action? His agent?
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah,
his agent, right? With the black pants, the black shirt.
Yeah, what happened to that guy, too? Where is he? He should have been making those statements, not DeVito himself.
Oh, gosh. Let me put it this way. That's the first I'm hearing about it, right? Yeah. So that's something. First of all, I want to kind of give a shout out to Mel Kiper Jr., okay? Because the amount of work that guy does and his passion for what he does has to be respected. I know people like poke fun at him left and right. My wife actually was watching part of the draft with me. And she said that he looked like the grandson on the Munsters. Was that guy's name Eddie or something?
Eddie Munster. He looks
Eddie
like
Munster?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The hair receding.
100%.
Hard to
right.
imagine what he was before him.
Right. By the way, I can't give much more than this, but I will just give a hint. Okay. Somebody who I know knows somebody else who works with the guy who uttered the words, "Hey, Mikey, he likes it."
Mikey.
Right?
Yeah.
That's
like,
funny.
if there was ever a claim to fame, I don't know, what would you rather have on your business card, right? General Secretary of NATO, or hey, Mikey, he likes it, right? It's sort of like a number of years ago, Wright Thompson, to me, the great sports feature writer, maybe of all time, did a piece, right, on Tiger Woods, right? Secret Like Tiger Woods. And there was an anecdote in there about how Woods, Michael Jordan, and Derek Jeter were in some like elite club in New York City. And Tiger said to them, like, how do you talk to women? And one of either Jordan or Jeter said, "You tell him you're Tiger Woods." Right?
That'll work.
And if it doesn't, then you got much bigger problems, right? So I'm sorry, Lou. Go back to your question. I knew there was something.
Oh yeah, there was a question, and the draft. the biggest stories for you were what?
DeVito, right? DeVito asking to be traded.
That would be number one for me, for sure.
Well, and actually, maybe him and his agent are onto something. This could be like the first trade between an NFL team and like a USFL team or an AFL team, right? I don't know. But, look, I think both the Jets and Giants were smart with their drafts. I know a lot of people at the time thought like, the Dart trade, to move back up and take the quarterback from Ole Miss was, silly, bizarre, foolish, whatever you want. It's not like they gave up the ranch, right? And if they did find their quarterback of the future, in this draft, the quarterback week draft, right? For I think what was it, a couple of third round picks? That's not a bad deal at all. So that's the great thing about the draft, right? That for 3 days, hope springs eternal, right?
Yes.
Then unfortunately for the Jets and Giants recently, there's something called the season opener.
It's usually where the euphoria ends.
Right.
What do you mean we're out?
Game one.
Call somebody. It's 4 a.m. Who am I going to get on the phone? No, nobody. Yeah, all right. And what did you make of the whole Shedeur Sanders turned out to be somewhat of a charade? I don't know. I mean, there's so many different stories surfaced, and so many different assertions were made and implications. I can't imagine you could have any kind of 32-team universal NFL collusion to not take a guy till the 5th round of the draft, that they were just saying, okay, we're going to show Dion something here, and we're not going to draft this kid.
Guys, this is naive Len speaking. Okay.
Okay.
There are many of us in the room at any given time, right? But this is naive Len, right? Football is a $1 trillion business. The NFL is a $1 trillion business. And at the end of the day, decisions are made on whether or not you can help a team win. Period. End of discussion. That's naive Len. Okay.
Yeah.
Then there's he's kept in a closet most of the time, by the way. Okay. Right. Then there's real Len. Okay. 32 teams colluded to basically end Colin Kaepernick's career.
They did.
Right? No, they did.
No,
right? I mean,
he was better than most backups and half the starters.
Right about that.
Or at least 10 of the starters at that point.
You really believe that? Wow, that's interesting.
Well, hey,
I didn't think of it that way, but it's a very valid point.
Won a lawsuit, right?
Yes.
Sued the NFL. Like, when do you sue the NFL and win?
And win.
Right? When does that happen?
Never.
Right? At best, you're hoping for one of those, settlements where nobody admits to anything, get it sealed, and they find the time capsule that Hoff is buried in, and they stick it in there, right? And, the Martians are going to say, like, I don't know, 100 years from now, man, I wish I could have met this Hoffa guy, right? So I think the truth lies somewhere in between, right?
Wow.
I think talent evaluators decided that. Okay, he's not a first rounder. He's not a second rounder. 4th rounder.
No, 5th round.
Come on, right?
Somebody you would have thought would have taken a shot, even if it became a blatant mistake, by at least round 3.
Yes.
I got 2 teams here in New York that's their business card.
I mean, it wasn't as if he didn't have some credentials and wasn't highly thought of. Now. By the same token, Quinn Ewers, who went in the 7th round to Miami, was at one time being talked about as a number 1 prospect also. But he, did not establish the same kind of credentials that Shedeur Sanders did. So maybe there's something to it. I don't know. I'm with naive Len. I'm right there in the closet with you, my friend. I thought it would be impossible to get in this $1 trillion business where winning is everything. All 32 teams to go ahead and say, okay, I'm in if you're in, and actually abide by it. And not pull some kind of switcheroo around the middle of round 3.
Guys, I never thought the moment would come on the show where I would have to say to you both, right? Preferably in private, but we're here right now, okay?
Yeah.
You just uttered the words that you're in the closet with me.
I know.
I think for everyone involved in this troika of worthlessness, maybe this really should be the last appearance. Maybe.
Yeah, it's
because all I know is this:
something to consider for sure.
if Shador Sanders is in that closet, also, we got a story.
We'll find out if he can break out of whatever dark cloud they put over his scouting statistics and whatever deterred them into taking a guy in the fifth round. I thought he celebrated it pretty well. I mean, that's a difference. If you have already several $1 million in your pocket, I guess it eases the pain of being one of those guys that's in the green room shot with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. Kind of reminds me of, and look, I absolutely believe that, college players should be able to profit off their name, image, and likeness. I really do, right?
Yeah.
But I heard that Carson Beck just added like one of those. Remember the Jetsons? They have those like little taxis where you can like fly and right. So I think he added that to like I think what does he got like a Maserati and Range Rover or something like that, right?
I saw him flying over Biscayne Bay. I thought it was
right. But the question is, was he intercepted? But on both.
Exactly.
We don't know if he can raise his right arm above his shoulder, but he's certainly not lacking for capital. Len, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much for sharing your insights into the draft, the NBA with us, and hopefully we'll be able to come out of the closet sometime again in the future. And
we live in a world of hope, guys. Thank you so much for having me. Really, always a delight.
Always a pleasure. Len Robbins, ladies and gentlemen.
That's classic.
All right. Well, that was a different approach. That's what we like to do. So we've been telling people for a long time, Lubie. Wild stuff. All right. So great, entertaining Tampa Bay, Florida, delivering everything that you possibly want. And I don't know, would it have added to the drama of the series? If you're a Panther fan, obviously you much prefer being up 3-1 than to having a back after reduce a piece. But that was great stuff. You couldn't argue with that. And if you were watching that in stark contrast here in our hometown, that was literally hard to watch, wasn't it? That wasn't even a clubbing of seals. At least there's some action there. I mean, I don't mean that in any kind of disparaging way because I'm very sympathetic and an animal activist. But geez, that was hard to take. And seeing my man Pat Riley looking despondent, like he was ready to gargle with a vial of embalming fluid. What the heck was that? Come on, Pat. He aged 20 years during the first half of that game.
Oh, yeah.
How do you lose by 55 in an NBA playoff game?
No, what do you mean? They were down by 30 in the first quarter. Like most teams don't even score anywhere near 30 in a first quarter. How do you go down by 30? When it was 100 something to 50 something in the third, I was like, what is going on? Like, so they're not even trying.
The shock, overcame the drama that was, for me, is more of a story than the dramatic conclusions to the Golden State game against Houston, where you've got stars performing at a high level, and the thing comes down to the wire. A lot of controversy. Draymond Green was throwing punches he was Vladimir Klitschko.
Yeah.
He was wild in this thing, kicking guys. He's got a guy. He almost took his groin out. It was a wild bloodbath of a ball game, and yet the stunning nature and the stench that remains hovering over the entire county of Dade County, Florida, is it's unwavering. It's unbelievable. I don't think we're going to be able to get rid of that for a couple of days. I don't know. What are they flying like those malathion planes out there? Trying to dissipate the stench. Is it actually visible, Louis? Do you think? Is there a literal dark cloud?
In Miami, probably, yeah. That was bad.
Or do people just not give a flying one? Is that possibly true too? We have a new team. When there's a bandwagon jump in town like this, we have a new team to attach ourselves to. And all of a sudden, you're going to see a zillion hockey fans spring up. People that wouldn't know a hockey puck from a bowling pin, all of a sudden, they're going to be wearing like Panther jerseys and spending hundreds of dollars on a Dennis Schwitke shirt. Unbelievable. All right, so it was great being with you guys. Thanks to Len Robbins. He made it a lot of fun this morning. It's always good to get a couple of laughs in the morning. Do you think, Libby? Is that the way to
sure.
approach life as opposed to just being angry with everybody in the world and whatever it is you're out there trying to do? You feel frustrated and just blaming everybody, including yourself. Forget about that. A couple of laughs will turn your day around. So we hope you were able to provide that. All right, coming up later on, we're going to zero in. We'll probably be on a backstretch at the Kentucky Derby. As on Conversations today, coming up at 10 o'clock here on Bleacher Brothers, we will feature Caitlin Bradar, one of the most outstanding women in any form of broadcasting and our broadcasters, period. And her area of expertise happens to be thoroughbred racing. It was great. Now, you didn't really know Caitlin well when we were on the backstretch of Churchill Downs that time we went to the Derby when Minot Bird won. And was that 2000? That couldn't have been 2008, was it?
No. 2010 or 2011. It might have been 2011. We started working together in 2010.
Later than that, yeah, because we were working together.
2011. It was the first like year we had been doing shows. It was like 2011, I think.
And then they have on the backstretch at Churchill Downs any number of television outlets, everything from Louisville all over the state of Kentucky. National outlets are there. And who's on every set being interviewed? Caitlin Bradar.
Yep.
And then she brings it to the table in terms of her handicapping. So I think you'll enjoy that. And also, we're going to feature the voice of the Triple Crown, Larry Colmus, who is a contemporary and a colleague of Caitlin's on FanDuel TV and their coverage. But once they get to the Triple Crown races and they go to the national telecast, move over. Here comes Larry Colmus, and he's doing a call for NBC, doing a great job. So we'll talk to him about that. And he's also an astute handicapper, so we'll see who he likes and try and get some Derby insight. And then have our good friend Rob Peterson is a hockey maven, Lubie. I didn't realize how connected this guy was until I saw him with a picture eating dinner with Scotty Bowman the other night. And as I told you, would you even, if they ask you Scotty Bowman, dead or alive, would you be inclined to lean dead?
I thought he might be dead, yeah, because he was older when he stopped coaching, and that was like 20 years ago now.
He broke in with Toe Blake, I think.
I mean, he coached into the late 90s, and he was into, I would think, his 60s/70s. So
yeah,
that's good for him.
So Ron's going to join us, and great guy, and we'll get into the NHL playoffs as well as the Derby. That's coming up on Conversations, 10 o'clock right here on Bleacher Brothers. All right, Lubie, you have a good one, my friend. Thank you for all of your help here on the show. Len Robbins was great. It's always good to talk to Len. And for Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. We'll see you next time as we leave you now that.
The time.
It's 9:02.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.